Hey everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Sunday School services this morning. We're going to start off with This Is My Father's World. This is my Father's world, and to my listening ear, all nature sings and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, yes, and the wonders wrought. This is my Father's world. The birds their carols ring, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that though the wrong seems off so strong, God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's world. The battle is not done. Jesus who died shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one. Brother Bruce.
Good morning. Welcome to services. We are in Proverbs chapter 20 this morning. The title of the devotional is The Just Man. So all ladies are exempt. You're good. No, these principles are for all of us. Proverbs chapter 20, we're going to look verses 6 and 7 this morning. Verse 6 says, Most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find? Verse 7, The just man walketh in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. So verse 6, The just man will proclaim everyone his own goodness. Translation, look at me. I'm so good, right? We have a tendency, particularly as men, because I can speak as a man, I can't speak as a woman, but especially when we're younger, as we're forging our way forward and we have society telling me it's all about me, and then I come to church and I hear it's all about God. We have this natural conflict, but we have this natural propensity to try to perform as individuals, right? And it's so easy as we perform as individuals and we do something good, it's I pound, or look at my Facebook page, look at how good I am, right? And we blast it all over the place. It can be very easy to do that. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 says, The words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem, Vanities of vanities, saith the preacher, vanities of vanities, all is vanity. What profiteth a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun? One generation passes away, the other generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. To say that anything we think we can attain physically in a secular fashion is but a vapor. It's all going to go away. It's all going to be gone. The point of that is to point us to the kingdom business. Focusing on things for eternity, the eternal glory of the Lord. Does that mean no, we can't have nice things? No. Success breeds success, right? Is Kyle here? Kyle's not here yet. When Kyle raced sprint cars, when he started coming up, do you think he went to the worst drivers on the circuit and said, hey man, can you give me some pointers? No. He went to the top 5 drivers of the circuit probably and said, hey, I'm young, I'm trying, give me some pointers, right? A successful Christian life, and it could be in time, family, health, even your monetary situation, all that. successful Christian life is people look at that and go, how does that work? In this vein, all me, right? But if we do it in the right vein and let the Lord turn our complete lives over to the Lord and let Him take care of those things for us, and we focus on kingdom business, we can point them to say, well, yeah, I'm blessed with some nice things, but it wasn't my doing. It's because I'm focusing on doing the Lord's work, and He takes care of the rest of us for us. How does that work? Verse 7 says, a just man walketh in his integrity. And here's the bonus. His children are blessed after him. Integrity, we've talked about this a number of times in our devotionals as of late. Living an upright life. If we looked at secular integrity, that might be a good person, right? Doing right and living a good life. You enter a saved child of God and you enter God into your life, that is doing right by the Lord in all things, right? And we talked about, we've talked about in the past, that is doing what's right even when no one's watching, right? Well, if you're a saved child of God, who's watching? Always, right? I had a secular father that taught me integrity in a secular fashion. He did right by others, and he was what we would call a good man. But I was blessed with a spiritual father, and my stepfather in a spiritual fashion, that he showed me what integrity in the Lord looked like, and doing right by the Lord. And he introduced me to the Lord at 10 years old. I accepted Christ when I was 7 because of his efforts. I'm living proof. The just man which walketh in integrity, his children are blessed after him. Amen. I'm standing before you here today because I had a man in my life that took God's word seriously. And was a consistent example, not at church and being all Jesus here, but in his walk, his daily walk, 24/7, when I saw him in his business and his work efforts and whatnot, I saw consistency and integrity, right? My business, when I'm praying and talking to my clients, I tell them the Lord's the CEO of my business. If you are not a business owner, you're an employee, and you're working for the Lord, you will never have a problem with your boss, right? If your integrity is one of godliness and you're striving to please the Lord in all your doings, you're not going to have to ask for raises. You're not going to have to fight the other employees and do any of that. You may be in a situation that feels like that, and we may be hindering ourselves from moving on, and God's saying, you know what, I don't want you here, I'm going to move you another job. That's uncomfortable for us, but we need to step out in faith. I prayed myself out of my 20-year career, and 3 weeks later, I was done. It was an amazing ride, and you never saw a guy so happy to be out of a career 20 years. But that takes a lot to step out in faith, right? I've got the security, the income, and I was one of the big wheels in the company, and from a secular vantage point, I got it made, right? From a personal standpoint with me and God, I was broken inside, going, I need out. I need to be doing what you would have me to do. And I prayed myself into a situation where I want to be able to do the Lord's work more consistently and more often. And now I have a business that allows me, I don't meet a client with the intentions of buying their items. I go to the intention with praying for divine appointments that I might share the Lord with them. And if I get to buy their stuff, that's great. But I get to put him first. And we can all do that, even if you're working for somebody else. You may not be able to take 3 hours and witness to somebody in the middle of your workday. But you certainly can be intentional about our efforts, right, of sharing the gospel and doing the kingdom work with integrity. I thank the Lord for my stepfather and the integrity he showed me, and I've taken it upon myself to make that an important thing for my children. There's no more greater blessing when you see your children following in the footsteps that you've laid before them in the spiritual sense. That and Lexi just went through this with the job she just got, and she just quit. And it was for the sake of godly integrity. And I was never more proud of her to see her do that. Because at that age, boy, we need income, right? And it seems very important to us. But I don't hide business and business income and our finances from my children. I share it with them and show them how I'm dependent on the Lord. Our family, we're dependent on the Lord. And I show them how he blesses when we just focus on doing the kingdom business. Do I always do that? Do I ever fail? Yes, I fail. I can't tell you how many times the clients left my office in a hurt situation, and because of my business and my mind or whatever, they've gone out and I went, I didn't even pray with them. I didn't even talk to them about how I can help them with Jesus Christ. And you beat yourself up, but you go back and try it again. But I share those things with my kids too, so they understand that they're not perfect, I'm not perfect, but if we're striving for the right reasons and focusing on the kingdom business first, the rest of this will be taken care of. With that, let's stand and be dismissed from our classes. Dear Lord, just thank you so much for the reminder. We can easily get in our own head and beat our own chest about the accomplishments we've had. The blessing is, if we do this in your name and we give you the glory, all the things we think we're chasing secularly, you'll provide all that, and we could just continue to be focused on your work. It's not easy. I thank you for the reminders. We all need them. Just give us courage and strength to step out on faith and put you first. In His precious name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
If I can have your attention, I'm not going to give Brother Cole a card with money in it or anything like that. But I have noticed a pattern. We rotate in teaching, and it seems like every time Brother Cole, his rotation comes up, whether it's teaching or preaching, they have a big youth event the day before. And so, anyway, I'm thankful for the guys that rotate. I'm thankful that even though his rotation comes up and he is exhausted the day before, that he still teaches. Thank you. I'm happy.
All right, we're going to find ourselves in Proverbs 18. So, let's start with the question. How often do we, when we're going to read a passage or something like that, we look at the little headings that are given in the Bible? Okay. So, I did that, and then I read the passage, and then I had questions, and then I read the passage a few more times, and then I decided that the heading that's in my Bible is wrong. Because it says, contrast the upright and the wicked. And I read it, and there's 24 verses in the lesson, and like 4 of them are positive verses. So the rest of them are negative, and they're talking about the foolish and the stubborn. And so that's what the lesson is on this morning. So if you turn there, right away as we start, and just so you know, I'll be reading a little bit out of the English Standard and maybe even the New American Standard, because as I was reading in the King James, some of the words that were used, they were confusing. And when I looked at the definition and looked at what the word meant, it flows a little easier in a different translation. And that picks up right in verse 1. I really saw this lesson as a lot of things about stubbornness. And I think that would be the key or the main thing this morning. How many of us know somebody that is stubborn? How many of us are stubborn? You don't have to raise your hands. A lot of raised hands. And so how this works for me is, as I was thinking about this week, and I got to thinking, okay, stubbornness, a lot of times we try to use the word in a positive way, but it's really not, it's not a positive word at all. And we're going to see, I think it's going to play out well in this passage, but the positive, or the flip side of stubborn is steadfast. And I think so stubbornness is very self-centered. Steadfast is there's a purpose and a goal in something you're striving for, and you are open to wisdom that is there, wisdom that is offered. Stubbornness says, no, I'm going to be the stick in the mud, and I'm not going to move no matter what. And so I think that having a good understanding of that kind of helps. When we look at verse 1, the King James words it this way. It says, through desire a man having separated himself seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. Well, I had to look up the word intermeddleth because that just, it did not fit with what I understood from that. And so to me, it reads a bit better this way. Whosoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. And so that's from the English Standard. So when you read it that way, because that word intermeddleth is, the definition is stubbornly refusing to change one's opinion or course of action, though people have tried to help. So it's, I'm going to keep going down this path, even though I've been told many times that it's not a good path, or that there's going to be pitfalls and things like that. And so right away, now that I mentioned that stubbornness is very self-seeking. It is, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And that's really what we're seeing here is it goes against sound wisdom. And so if you look at kind of a parallel verse in Proverbs 11, it's a familiar verse. 11 and 14, it says, where there is no guidance, the people fail. But in abundance of counselors, there's victory. Now, Brother Bruce in his devotional talked about how there was an individual in his life that led him to the Lord and showed him things. And he used an illustration of seeking wisdom or seeking guidance and things like that from people that are more advanced than you. The stubborn won't even acknowledge that. Won't even acknowledge that somebody else might be either more knowledgeable or better than you in a particular field. And I think that there's, let's word it. How many of you, when you were in your teenagers, you thought you knew it all? And we see that, right? We see that, and the reality is that you don't know anything, and that you need that wisdom that comes from other people, that wisdom that hopefully we're seeking wisdom that comes from God to someone and then to us. And then Proverbs 15:22 says that with many advisors plans succeed. And I think that I think most everybody here is probably going to understand this, that when you have different people there, they can offer insight and things like that will help the situation. We're just going to march through the whole chapter, and we're going to get as far as we get until time runs out. Verse 2, it says, a fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. It reads a little bit better. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. Now, I don't know about you, but given the events of the last month, there's a lot of videos going on and a lot of different things that I've watched, and it's amazing how somebody will sit and argue a point even though they're beat. That logic is completely against them, but they will argue that point, and they are not seeking actual understanding of the situation. They just want to express how they feel about it. And that's what this verse is saying, is expressing their opinion, or that the heart will discover itself. That's a little harder to understand. But don't want understanding, they just want to reveal the heart. And we can see, we know that Proverbs is full of different, I'll call them wisdom nuggets, and like I think all of my related verses are all in Proverbs. Proverbs 1:7, it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and fools despise wisdom and instruction. There's other verses that go with that as well. In verse 3, it says, when the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, and with ignominy reproach. I like it better in the ESV, where it says, "When wickedness comes, contempt comes also, and with dishonor comes disgrace." There's a progression. It starts with something wicked, and then it ends up with disgrace. It's a progression on how things advance forward. It's kind of like planting a seed. You know, eventually, that seed is watered, there's something that's going to come from it. I think the opposite side of this is don't let the wickedness have its seed in our lives.
When the snowball goes downhill,
What's that?
When the snowball goes downhill, it grows.
It builds. It grows.
Gets bigger.
Yep. Verse 4. It says, "The words of man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook." And what I kind of found is in 20 and 5, and I think maybe Bruce read it this morning. It says, "A plan in the heart of man is like deep water, but a man of understanding draws it out." That deep water. A lot of times, you might meet somebody, and everything seems good to begin with. Hey, this looks like they're a nice person, they're knowledgeable, whatever it is. And then the more you get to know them, you realize that they've got a twisted manipulation that they kind of do with people. Anybody ever had this, where it's the more you get to know somebody, it's like, I don't like the person as much as I liked them to begin with. And, like the car salesman. I think we kind of get that. Hey, everything seems great, and then you realize later on that, okay, that maybe they've got some kind of scheme going on. With this one, it says that the words of man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook, or wellspring of wisdom is a flowing brook. The heart of man can be deep, and we may not know what that is. We may not know what is within somebody else. But wisdom is something that's, to me, it seems like it's there and it's visible, and sometimes we don't want to see it. And that's what I kind of understood from this passage. The deep waters, it's hard and unknown, but wisdom is there, especially if you're looking to the Lord. Verse 5, it says, "It is not good to be partial to the wicked or to deprive the righteous of justice." I felt like that was pretty self-explanatory. Don't be partial to people, because as soon as you are partial to someone, there's gonna be a compromise at some point. Let's see the second verse. Proverbs 24 and 23 says, "These are the sayings of the wise. To show partiality in judgment is not good." Verses 6, 7, and 8, I'll read them. It says, "A fool's lips walk into a fight, and his mouth invites a beating. A fool's mouth is his ruin, and his lips are a snare to his soul. The words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body." So I have this friend. I've referenced this friend before. I don't need to give his name. But there for a long time, every time we would get together, it seemed like he was almost looking for a fight. And just how he would explain things and talk about things, it seemed like he was looking for a particular fight on whatever issues. He was going to take a stand on something and looking for a particular fight. And you can tell by how they use their words. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that there was a deeper issue going on that was causing this. But what happened was that because of the way that he would act and how he would use his words, people would kind of, don't want to go near that, don't want to be involved with that or get sucked in. And that was my mistake a few times. getting sucked into the little thing that he was going after, wanting to debate some issue. One time, tell a quick little story. He was arguing for arranged marriage. And you know, he starts off, and you don't know where he's going right away, but he starts off and he's going this particular direction. And the gist of where he was going is that the child should trust the parent's judgment and should let the parent decide who they were going to marry in the future. And this whole thing, it happened at a wedding. And what he was trying to do was pit one of his kids against mine. He was trying to put them together. But it was like the whole thing. Sometimes people, they have a way of getting under your skin. Anybody have somebody in their life like that? They have that way of getting under your skin. They have that some of you are laughing because I think some of you might be thinking of the same person.
But he works at doing it.
What's that?
I said, your friend works at doing it. That's his goal.
Yes. It's changed a little bit now, but that's what he would do. Is he would work at it, and he crafted that way of doing that, and you can tell right away when someone's when you know somebody, you know, okay, where are you going with this? Because before I answer this question, and before I go down this rabbit hole, what is your end game with all of this? And so it took me, I've known this guy for my whole life. It took me most of my life to figure out what's going on with him. But I think sometimes people can come off that way, and the reality is inside they're very troubled. They've got a lot of struggles and frustrations and things like that they're sorting through, and it comes out in that way. So verses 6 through 8, it's all about the fool's lips and his mouth and his ruin. And I think what happens is when you go down that route, people, they don't want to be around you anymore. And I think that as we get older and we realize that maybe we have somebody in our life like that, we tend to I need some boundaries with this person because of the influence that they have or where they cause me to go. Staying away from the ruin and the snare that is talked about in this passage. Verse 9 I felt was pretty interesting. It says, whoever is slack in his work is brother to him who destroys. And I want us to think about this. If you are slow in moving or progressing or lazy in getting something done, he's saying that you're a brother to someone who is actively trying to destroy. And you get to thinking about that. And it's like, how often do maybe we have a project or something like that, and we are unsure on how to move forward with it, and so we're a little slow on moving forward with it. I think that this is more of a mentality of procrastination. I don't want to do it, and so therefore he's putting that as somebody who's actively trying to destroy. And I think the flip side of this is be diligent in the things that we are doing. If you're trying to, whether it's working with someone or some kind of project, you make sure that you're doing the best that you can. And that's something that we've tried to tell our kids, that when if they're playing sports or in school or whatever, I'm not looking to compare you to other people. I want you to do the best that you can. And if you've done the best that you can, then that's where we're at. And I came across this thing, and this was an old video from probably the 50s. And this guy he's a running coach. And what happened is he's training this young child on running. And at the first race, she gets in last place. And she's all disappointed that she got in last place. And he says, this was not a loss. He said, the best time you ever ran was 19 seconds in practice. You ran 18.9 in the race. You made progress and you did the best that you could. So the next time you run, you're trying to beat your own mark. We're not worried about what the other people are doing. And as I saw that and I was thinking about that, I was like, I think that's the mentality that we've got to take. Is we're not measuring against other people. We're measuring against, it's really just us and the Lord. And are we moving forward and getting closer to the Lord? Are we getting closer and progressing with Him? And that's what eventually I think happened later on with this young lady. As she got better and she actually started to play us.
When I was in high school, I was a senior, and we were in track team and shot put and discus. We spent a lot of time in the weight room. And there was this football player that was a junior that he was in there too. And we noticed that he was lifting way more than we were. And in a very short amount of time, he got very, very strong. And it began to mess with us psychologically for a while, until it was found out that he was taking steroids. And so sometimes you're comparing yourself against someone else that is not on the same path that you're on.
All right. That's important. As I'm thinking about that, how often do our young people compare themselves to non-Christians? And maybe not just even young people, but we compare ourselves to people that are not on the same path, that are not striving for the same end goal as a child of God. Because as a child of God, we know our eternal security is set in heaven. And so our goal our aim is to please the Father. And when we live that way, we're no longer in comparison with other people. It's no longer keeping up with the Joneses and all the other things, or trying to be involved in all the different sports and all the different prerequisites or whatever I call them resume fillers. Mm-hmm. We don't have to worry about that because we serve the God who's in control of it all. Mm-hmm. And I think time and time again, I think God in the Bible, He used people that were from man's perspective, were unqualified to do the job. Mm-hmm. To me, that says we don't need to be worried about the qualifications because God is looking at the heart. And when God looks at the heart, then He's going to qualify you. He's going to put you where He wants you to be. And we see that over and over in the Scriptures. And which brings us to verse 10, which is like the first verse that I really liked in the whole lesson, is the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous man runs to it and is safe. And you think about this, and my mind goes to I watch my kids play games and things like that. And there's a safe zone, right? If we play tag in the house, that generally speaking, your own room is your safe zone. Well, our safe place is with the Lord. Because when you're with Him, nobody can touch you. And that's kind of the way it was with the game. But what this is saying is that we need to strive to be there. And if you're in that tower, that castle, the next verse is the flip side of it. Verse 11, it says, a rich man's wealth is his strong city, and like a high wall in his imagination. King James uses the word conceit, but imagination, I really like that one because how often do we see in this world people building their own little kingdom? The big house, whatever it is, the big house, the cars, all of that kind of stuff, and that they think there's security in the physical things that they have, and then they lose it all. And we've seen that, and I think that the name of the Lord, the word that is used here is Jehovah or Yahweh, and it's that eternal God. And I think that when we think of things that way, let me ask this: how many of you have seen fashion come and go? And sometimes I feel like I'm younger with the kids that I work with, but then I think, I remember when that particular fashion was big when I was a kid, and then it went away, and now it's coming back, and some of you guys may have seen it a few times. You've seen the cycles, and Completely lost it. I don't know. It's gone.
Well, if you were trying to tell us you're not as young as you thought you were.
Yeah.
Or you're calling us old.
Oh, man.
We've seen it several times.
Yep.
There's a term for that.
God has been around. He has seen it all. He has seen from the start of this world to now. He has seen the cycles. And so when we are placing our trust in Him, we're placing in all of the, I'd say knowledge, but that would be the wrong word because it's knowledge is a cumulative. We're placing our trust in the wisdom that is God. And not just the wisdom, but the love, everything else that comes with it. We're placing everything in Him, and it's running that strong tower. And you think of that strong tower, where we were in, I believe it was Romania, on a mission trip, and we got to go look at this this castle when we were in between things. And we go up on this tower, and I don't know about you, but like castles and stuff like that, I find them really cool. And to be able to be up, one, you can see for a long ways away. And then you're protected because you're in this stone. I think when we our vantage point, the way that we look at God needs to be that when we are with Him, when we are where we're supposed to be, we are in that castle. And that castle is that fortress where the enemy cannot get to us. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with the other thing, but we're back on. Verse 12. It says, before destruction, a man's heart is haughty, but humility comes before honor. If one gives an answer before he hears, it is his folly and his shame. Whenever you're dealing with kids, and kids squabble, usually the first one that comes to you, they're going to tell you a story, and then that particular story is going to make you think that they're in the right. And after a while, you learn you got to hear the other story. You got to hear both stories to find out what actually happened, because we have a way of slanting stories as we're telling them, as we're trying to get somebody on our side. So the rule with verse 13 is you don't answer a matter before you've heard it. You got to hear the matter, and I think it was. It might have been Brother Bailey years ago. He stopped just answering questions. And as somebody that would ask questions, it would always drive me nuts. Because I'd go to him and ask a question, and then he's got like 3 follow-up questions before he answers the question that I'm asking. And I hated it when he was doing it. I still don't like it. But I've learned what he's doing. He's finding all of the information around whatever the question is to make sure that it... that you give the best answer. Because I think that after a while, if you get burnt by somebody asking a particular question, and there's some trap or whatever, you take on that kind of perspective. And the wisdom that came from that, even though I didn't like it, I learned from it. That you have to look at the full picture and just not the little picture.
It's amazing what you can learn from your children.
Yeah. Yeah, it teaches a lot.
And listen to both sides of the story. I mean, there's more information out there most of the time.
Sometimes when we tell stories, we tell it or we judge other people by their actions, and we judge ourselves by our motives, by the intent behind it. And I was trying to do this nice thing, and they hit me, or whatever it was. And the reality is that the truth of the matter is a little bit, maybe a little bit disguised, because they tried to do one thing, but it didn't actually turn out that way. they tried to carry the plate to the kitchen sink and they tripped and fell, and I don't have a particular story to go with that, but that's don't speak before you know the matter. Verse 14, a man's spirit will endure sickness, but a crushed spirit who can bear? We were, growing up watching sports and playing sports, you can tell when somebody's beat before they're actually beat. When they've lost it in their mind, when their spirit, the momentum is killed, they're gone. It's over. And usually as a coach, that's when you got to call a timeout. You got to do something to shift that momentum. And what this is saying is we can deal with sickness, but when our spirit is crushed, when we don't have that hope within us, we're done. And just as a player on the court, it's time for a timeout. We got to stop. We need to get back to where we are. Who are we? What are we doing? What is our goal? And more importantly, where's our strong tower? And when we get back to that, now the hope is being restored, and we can get back to. I was using the sports and get back to the game, but in our spiritual walk, get back to what we're supposed to be doing in this life. As a child of God, sharing the gospel. Okay, verse 15. 15 is like the second verse that I saw as a positive verse. It says, an intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. King James uses the word prudent, gets knowledge. You're striving for knowledge. And that's what I learned with the questioning, and when Brother Bailey would answer questions, is he was gaining more knowledge of the situation before he would answer the matter. I think that's a situation that, if you've got to fix something at home, what are we doing nowadays? YouTube. You watch somebody else do it, you punch in the right words, and you watch a video, you watch somebody else do whatever it is you're trying to do. I had to change a cabin air filter on one of the cars. I'm not, Brother Donnie knows, I am not mechanically minded. I'd call him a lot of times. And then, but then you get on the video and you watch somebody else do it, and then you can learn from that. And then the cool thing about the video is you can press pause. But you acquire the knowledge before you go forward, and then you're seeking knowledge and understanding of whatever the endeavor is. Verse 16. Actually, verse 13 and verse 17 go together. Because 13 was, if one gives an answer before he hears, it is folly and shame. Verse 17 is the one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him. And that's that whole kind of idea with two kids or two people, they come and they give their different sides of the story. But verse 16 is, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before the great. It's sometimes I saw this as bribery. But it's not always bribery. It's the fact that you give somebody a gift, it gives you, brings you up a peg in their eyes. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about verse 19, so we'll read 18 and 19. 18 is the lot puts an end to quarrels and decides between powerful contenders. 19 is a brother offended is more unyielding than a strong city, and quarreling like the bars of a castle. And as I thought about that, you think about somebody that is stubborn in your life, and when somebody gets offended or hurt, they're going to take a position and they're not going to move, even though you try to bring in logic or reasoning to whatever the situation is. If Mary hurts me, I'm making up an example. She hasn't done anything. If she does something and says something and hurts me, I can take a position that she is evil and make up other kinds of adjectives. And the reality is that maybe her original thing was taken out of context, and she's not that way, and somebody can come and try to tell me how nice of a person she is, and that stubbornness, I will stick in that, and the brother offended is more unyielding than a strong city. A strong city, once you beat it, it's done. But the brother offended is going to stay in their position even though they might be beat. They may not turn. And I think that's what it's saying here is that I saw it as a warning. We should try not to offend each other, right? I think that's kind of common sense, try not to offend one another, because a lot of negative things happen when somebody gets offended. And that the heart of somebody that is wise, that they will pause. And I was trying to come up with an illustration for stubbornness, and the picture that kept coming to my mind was years ago we went to the young adult retreat, and there was a small group of us that drove up, and while we weren't staying the night, we were going to come home that particular night, and I think there was 2 cars that were with us. And one of them, a friend was driving, and she had a small kid, and she did not have the greatest driving record. So I offered to drive for her. And so as I'm driving down, we hit some ice and start sliding. This is up in the mountains. On the left side, you go off the mountain. And I had lost control, and I was like, okay, I don't want to go that way. So I tried to steer it and just keep it this way, and we ended up sliding, and we went into the mountain. And so we end up sliding, and the car is tilted up like this. So a couple tires are touching, one of them is not. A stubborn individual will keep hitting the gas trying to go. Not going to go anywhere, not going to do anything. It's just going to keep going. Where the person that is wise will get out and look at what's happening and what needs to happen. And what needed to happen was that, one, we needed help. And I think the steadfast person, the wise person, will seek help in whatever predicament that they might be in. Whereas the stubborn is just like, I'm not in trouble, I can fix it, I'm going to do it myself, and keep hitting the gas, and it's not going to work. And so we ended up having to have somebody go and pull us out because we couldn't push the thing down. That was fun. To finish out the passage, verses 20 through 24, it says, "From the fruit of man's mouth his stomach is satisfied. He is satisfied by the yield of his lips. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. He who finds a wife..." Well, okay, let me pause there. We've all heard the little saying that was taught to us kids, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Or, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say to me, bounce off me. Those kinds of things. Those are all lies, right? Because words hurt. If somebody says something and it hurts the heart. I think that's what was taught to us to gain some mental toughness, to ignore what somebody says. But the fact is that words hurt. And that's what the fool or the wicked, as it's portrayed in this this whole chapter, is it's somebody that runs their mouth without thinking. And I think that's the admonition, is to be careful with what you say and make sure that our words are meant to build one another up, edify. Verse 21 said that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and that those that love it will find its fruit. And then verse 22, it goes on, it says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." It's just the poor use entreaties, but the rich answer roughly. A man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend that sticks closer to a brother. Going back to verse 1, the stubborn individual, the unwise individual is one that is going to try to do things their own way. Whereas the wise one is somebody that's going to include other people. I think that verse 1 talked about isolating self. And I think that can be an easy, it can be easy to fall into that. We get hurt by somebody and then we just want to be by ourselves. And we just want to spend time by ourselves and we isolate ourselves. And that's really kind of the first step in separating ourselves from community. And wisdom and success is found with community, with the how do we use it? Interdependence. You know, it was talked about, I think you were using the racing illustration. You go to the people that have done it. You go to the people that have succeeded in what you're doing. If I have a car question, I call Brother Donnie. Because he's a mechanic. He's done it. He's probably done everything there is on a car. He's looked at all these different things. And so that's the one that I go to because I know I don't know very much about it. And if he doesn't know it, more than likely he can point me in the right direction. And I think that's something that's important to have. And if you're younger, you need to have your people that are, I don't know if you want to consider yourself an expert or not, but your people that are way more knowledgeable than you in different fields, and then you learn from them. You learn from them whenever those situations come about. I think that's what I got. I had a whole lot of other verses. There's a lot of verses in Proverbs that reiterate a lot of these same points. And it felt like it was a bit of an echo sometimes. The verses are saying the same thing, just a different way. Any questions or thoughts? I'll point your questions to Brother Bailey, even though he'll respond with multiple questions. No? All right. That's weird. Thank you.